These beds have given me a beautiful spring harvest. Cabbage, onions, broccoli, cauliflower. They did exactly what I needed them to do, with the exception of a couple of the cauliflower that still haven't quite headed up. But now they're almost all done, and in Arkansas Zone 8A, I have 4 beds that I actually need to fill with crops that can handle what summer can throw at them. If you've ever finished a spring harvest and thought, now what? You're exactly in the right place. A lot of gardeners put so much energy into that first planting that they don't realize that there's a second chapter, a third chapter, so much more that the season has to offer. I want to show you how I think through that transition and walk you exactly through what I'm doing in these 4 beds right now. I'm going to start here with this bed because this was the easiest decision. This bed was a bed of cabbage and onions over the spring. I still have this Ruby Queen cabbage. It's going to come out shortly, but I'm trying to wait until the head gets just a little bit larger. I already harvested all the other cabbages in this bed and almost all the onions. I just have a couple of these left. But next, this bed is going to have sweet potatoes and zinnias. Sweet potatoes are one of those crops that genuinely thrives in our summer heat. They don't just survive it, they love it. But sweet potato vines can get aggressive, which is why I decided to put them back here in this corner of my bed. That way they have a little bit of extra room back here without having to take over the rest of my walkway space. If you're growing sweet potatoes for the first time, just be mindful that these sweet potato vines, they look small right now. I just planted them over the weekend, but they will eventually spread, and that's completely normal. You just might want to plan for that when you decide where you're going to plant them. Now, along with sweet potatoes, I'm putting in zinnias. And zinnias are here partly for their beauty and partly for pollinators. But another reason why this works is that zinnias have a tall growth habit, which will pair perfectly with the sweet potatoes that are going to be lower and they're going to be vining. As far as garden layout goes, I'm planting sweet potatoes every other square here in my Garden in Minutes garden grids, which I use for irrigation, but also works really well for plant spacing. And then in between each of those squares is where I planted zinnia seeds at the same time. Hopefully before I know it, I'll have a bed full of beautiful zinnia flowers growing up and then sweet potato vines growing out. This will be a perfect combination for hands-off gardening, especially in the heat of the summer. Next, let's move along to the cauliflower bed. You can see I'm still hanging on to some of this cauliflower, but none of it, all of this is the purple variety. None of them have started to produce heads yet, and I've already well past harvesting the white ones that I had planted in this bed as well. I'm kind of thinking that they got too much cabbage worm damage to be able to form a head, and it's starting to get really hot. But I'm hanging in there just a little bit longer because I know that once a head starts to form, it actually will form pretty quickly. But if worse comes to worse, I'll just take these out and call it a loss because I want to have time to move on to the next crops that need to go in this space. And for the summer this year, I'm going to be planting a combination of cucumbers and peanuts. For the cucumbers, I am using these Garden in Minutes tomato cages. And while a flat section of cattle panel would have been perfectly fine, I really like the aesthetic of these tomato cages. I grew cucumbers in these cages last year and they did really well. In each of these squares, I planted 4 cucumber seeds, and if all of them sprout, I will probably plan to thin them to 2 plants per cage. One thing you may notice is that I put the cucumbers on one side of this bed, and the reason for that was purposeful. This side is the north side of my bed, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to plant a lower growing crop and I wanted to make sure that it got plenty of sun. Now for the lower growing crop that I'm going to grow in the rest of this bed, I have chosen peanuts. This was actually a last minute change to my garden plan. I was going to grow bush beans here, which would have been fine, but I still have so many beans canned from last year that I decided I wanted to try something different. So I'm gonna try peanuts. I grew them once in my large garden, but only got a really small harvest because the rabbits decided to eat the plants and they didn't really do a whole lot. So this time I want to try it again. This will be my second attempt. I just ordered the seeds over the weekend, so I'm hoping to get them planted by the end of May, and hopefully we'll have enough time to be able to get a harvest by October or so here in Arkansas. But if you have any tips on growing peanuts, I'm all ears. Please put them in the comments because definitely this is a trial for me. But all that to say, peanuts are warm season crops, cucumbers are warm season crops, and then by putting the cucumbers on the north side and the peanuts over here on the south side, hopefully this will be another great pairing for the summer in this bed. Moving back here is the bed that I had broccoli and crimson clover planted over the spring. The crimson clover was actually a cover crop that I planted in the fall, but I left different squares in this grid to be able to plant a spring crop, and for that it was broccoli. But now that the broccoli is completely harvested, I have chopped and dropped the clover that was growing in this space, and that's what you see here that looks like mulch. It's actually the clover mulch. I didn't work it into the soil like you would normally do a cover crop. Instead, I kept it here as mulch. We'll see how it goes, but I really liked that combination in the spring, but it was time to flip it to summer plantings. Now it's getting okra and marigolds, and there's a reason why I'm planting these two together. But first, let's talk about okra. I started okra in seed trays in my greenhouse, which is not usually what most people do. Okra is typically direct sown, but I had a specific reason for starting them early in my greenhouse. I wanted transplants ready to go the moment this broccoli came out so that I could drop them right in without losing any time. My family loves okra. That's an example of thinking ahead for succession planting when you can plan your next crop before the current one finishes. And it's definitely a skill I'm still working on honing and getting better at each year. But there's something else that I found out this year that was very fascinating. Even though I usually direct sow okra and have had great success with that, researchers at the University of Georgia recently conducted a trial comparing transplanted okra to direct seeded okra, and the results between the two were significant. But maybe not in the way that you would think, because I certainly wouldn't have predicted this. This study showed that transplanted okra produced dramatically more pods and much higher yields than direct seeded plants. So while direct sowing is still a common approach, the research supports giving okra a head start. Now, I mentioned that I'm planting okra and marigolds in the same bed, and there's a specific reason for that too. Root knot nematodes have been a real problem for me in the past. Now, the established approach for using marigolds against nematodes is to till them into the soil at the end of the year, and I know that scientifically that is the best practice. Another thing that you can do is use mustard as a cover crop and do the same thing. I had that intention last fall when I planted a mustard cover crop to hopefully be able to help with nematode suppression, but it winter killed before I could work it into the soil. So this year I'm trying something a little bit different because I didn't have marigolds in this area last year and my mustard ended up dying over the winter, although I don't know if it made any difference. It was growing there. I guess we'll see. But I decided, why not try to plant marigolds around the okra and see if that helps at all. Now, as far as I know, this method doesn't have a science behind it because, as I mentioned, putting the marigold matter in the soil where the nematodes grow is actually what has been proven scientifically to work. But I thought, why not try it? Why not plant marigolds every other square with my okra every other square and just see if I get a little bit more harvest than I did last year. Now, I'll report back to you to see if it helped because last year I lost my okra to root knot nematodes way earlier than I should have. Sometimes gardening is part science, part experiment, and I'm just gonna see how this goes. And if you've tried this combination before, I would love to hear back from you. At the very least, marigolds are beautiful. Okra plants are really pretty, especially when they're in flower. So I've got two crops that are gonna grow really well in my summer heat, and they're gonna add some beauty to the garden as well. Finally, I have this bed, and this was planted almost identically to the first bed you saw. Cabbage and onions were the main ones. I still have a couple of cabbages here that will come out soon. But this one is getting the most ambitious planting of the four. I'm gonna be planting a tomato, which I haven't done that yet. I'll share more about that in a minute. Squash, watermelon, and marigolds. Let's start with the tomato because this is something I don't do often. I'm trying to propagate a new plant from a sucker, specifically from my Eva's Purple Ball tomato. Now, if you haven't grown this variety, it's one that holds up really well in the summer heat, and it works great for both fresh eating and canning. The reason I'm doing this now is strategic. My other tomatoes, which you see right here, I have pineapple and maybe Cherokee purple. I can't remember, I'll have to look at the plant tag. But those are looking great now, but when it gets into the summer heat, they are going to really start to struggle. And having a younger plant coming along will give me a fresh producer right when I need one. Taking a sucker, rooting it, and then transplanting it is essentially getting a free tomato plant from genetics that you already know and trust, and it saves from having to start all over from seed. I'm going to be putting that, it's rooting right now, so it might take a little bit longer, but I'm going to be putting that in the middle here. But until then, I've got squash and watermelons that are going in as direct seeds. I seeded them over the weekend. They haven't quite sprouted yet, but I've got squash here on one side, zucchini on this side, and then I've got 2 watermelon plants on the south side up front. Now the squash and the zucchini is my second planting because my current planting, which is just starting to produce now, I know is going to get hit by the squash vine borer by early July like it does every year. And instead of fighting it, this is the way that I deal with that. I usually will succession plant over and over. So this will be the second planting so I can have more squash and zucchini after the first one succumbs. Now for the watermelon, I'm very strategic about what varieties I'm planting because it's going to be in quite a small space, and I really don't want to have to fight with vines going everywhere. I mean, there's going to be some of that, but I'm trying to minimize it. So I'm planting the Quetzalli variety right here because it's going to be a little bit more compact, and last year when I did a taste test, it was absolutely delicious. It was bred for small spaces. I'm also planting one called California Sweet Bush. If you've ever wanted to grow watermelon but thought you didn't have the room, either of these varieties, California Sweet Bush or Quetzalli, are worth looking up. I also want to add some marigolds here around the tomatoes because I love having them anywhere I can tuck them in over the summer. Those are the only 4 beds I'm having to completely flip right now. This one you can see already has some summer crops in it like the tomatoes, but I've also got some peas and some garlic and some lettuce down here that are still serving me well. But the other 4 beds definitely gave us a lot over the spring, and now I'm planting new crops to carry us through summer. And then in a few months, we'll be doing this all over again as we transition into fall. That is the beauty of succession planting. The season never actually ends, it just changes. Now, if you're making similar transitions in your garden right now, these are some ideas for you. And you may have noticed that peppers are absent here in these beds. Ideally, peppers would be perfect for a succession planting, but you may have seen on a previous video that I have planted way too many peppers in other places, so I definitely did not need to add more here. If you're getting ready to flip your beds, I would love to know what you're planting. Maybe you don't get as hot as we do, and maybe you can do more plantings of cooler crops. Either way, share it in the comments and I would love to hear from you. And if you're newer to raised bed gardening and you want to go deeper into how to set up and manage beds like the ones that I did from the very beginning, I'll link my kitchen garden playlist where I show you exactly how I set this area up for the very first time. Thanks for being here at the Beginner's Garden.